We're here to decomplexify in some ways, but also invite others into the complexity. And this particular episode is geared towards helping people understand, what's the tricky part of getting started? Can you help us understand what not to do when you're super excited and you have this awesome, complex human operating system that you're so excited to discover more about? What would be your message to folks?
My message would probably be, I'll use a metaphor, which is if you want to learn how to swim, you don't go read a book and then just jump in by yourself and do it. I mean, you could definitely read a book, and that has some use, right? To understand conceptually what you're doing and why you're doing it. But typically what happens when you're learning something physical is that you actually need some training, and particularly when it's something that is highly dangerous. And I do think that when we're dealing with humans and our relationships and ourselves, that there's a sacred space. There's something, in our humanity that needs to be taken very seriously. And because we're fragile creatures and we can mess things up pretty easily. So in that way, it's not a perfect metaphor, but you kind of need help learning how to swim is the point. A book is one kind of help, but it certainly can't end there. A book is a place to start, is a place to get curious. It's a place to have kind of the basics understood in your mind, and you can begin to visualize things, etc. But really, when you get in the water, you need to have somebody there, watching you so that you don't drown, number one. And then also, help get your body in the right position. And, it's a very complicated thing, swimming, which is why I use that, right? Because the breathing is complicated, the body movements is complicated, and we're kind of put in this whole other ecosystem where we're essentially not really designed to exist, the water. So I think it's a similar that way with the Enneagram, is that people kind of don't understand the complexity in which it is. And out of not understanding that, they're not setting themselves up to actually have a complete and accurate experience. So that's kind of where I'd start. But what have you actually experienced in that, Chelsea? Because there's a lot of things I can say here.
I guarantee that in our initial conversations, I asked you how I could learn more, because I am a lifelong learner and I love to read books, and I've read all of the leadership development, personal development books. And it's ironic because I've never read any really content about Enneagram until very, very recently. And that surprises me, actually. And it's because I never felt like I needed any of it, because I was actually living it and experiencing it through your partnership and through conversations. And I was learning it through immersion, really, and contextualization you never taught me about, all right, we're going to go through all 9 types today. It was really as I brought different scenarios and context and painted the picture, and you would ask numerous questions to gain, clarity about the scenario, that then the work of the Enneagram came to life in terms of adding value as we would build strategies, right? Again, being one tool that we could use to understand the landscape. And I'm smiling and I'm laughing a little bit because there's so much content about the Enneagram out in the world. And currently there's this great Enneagram gift guide where you can figure out what to get every Enneagram on your gifting list. And I know we were laughing recently about the Halloween costume for the type 9. And I know your comment was like, it's good that we can laugh at ourselves and we're useful and helpful and playful. It's all good. But wow, does an Enneagram gift giving guide miss the mark in terms of the power of this transformational, system?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly as you said, I said, which is like, there's this fine part about it, which is like, yeah, it's great. We can laugh at ourselves, whatever. It's fine. There's this other part of it where we can become very overcommitted to what we think we know. And I'll just say this, that a couple things that come to mind in terms of the Enneagram. One is that it's not a pickup sport, to use the sports analogy, right? You can't just go, most people can figure out, how to dribble a ball fairly quickly, or go, have the basics of certain sports that they can do just to play. And Enneagram isn't like that, right? It's not a pickup sport. It requires a lot of time and study. And I think for most people to actually have an accurate working knowledge, it takes years. And so this is a commitment. And you've heard me say this, Chelsea, that I actually discourage people from pursuing the Enneagram, because there has to be a commitment to learning and study. And if you're not really that committed, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it. And which isn't the worst part. The worst part is you can do a lot of damage, in terms of how you are unconsciously weaponizing the Enneagram to either support, your bad behavior, that which is a form of weaponization, or judging others, for theirs. And so it becomes a place that can be destructive until you really understand it. So that's an important aspect to remember around the Enneagram. The other thing is that we as humans tend to worship our tools. So when there's this undercommitment, which I just spoke of, and now here's the other side, which is an overcommitment, which is like, the Enneagram is just a tool. It's one of many. It's pretty, amazing and outstanding, which is why I have been committed to it and been practicing it for so many years. However, it is not the end all be all. It is not the only thing out there, and it's not something to be worshiped. And there needs to be a healthy relationship with the Enneagram in either direction. But that healthy relationship, I think, initially requires some discipline into learning it. And then also, after you've learned it, discipline to not, only see the world, through the Enneagram.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having a partner, or for those out listening, I don't know who that partner would be, honestly, because you came beside me and you were able to help me within the corporate context do a couple of things. One, locate intelligence that I couldn't see because I was too close to it, right? Because I actually knew these people and their names and their stories, and my own issues are so in front of my face that they are me. And so it's hard to kind of take a step back and gain some objectivity. And so the Enneagram can be tricky, but also having a partner as you're exploring the Enneagram, learning it, pursuing it, and ultimately implementing it is going to be that objective lens to help you kind of approach looking at situations through a new lens. And then for me, it really represented a thinking change. And we've talked about this and kind of mentioned it around self-awareness, and then of course, empathy and understanding where people are coming from and what's driving that, talking about the why and less so the what. But the Enneagram can also help you approach situations and gain a sense of what to be looking for. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, in the context of the place that we start, in terms of if we are deeply interested in the Enneagram and decide to use it as a tool and kind of want to figure out where our type is, the places to look are what are our core drives, in terms of motivations, and our core fears. And that's Enneagram language, and that's different than how we normally use what's your core motivation. Like if we ask somebody on the street, hey, what's your core motivation? We would come up with all these things that we would identify as, oh yeah, I'm motivated, by money, or I'm motivated by, having a good time, or I'm motivated, by my particular goals, right? The particular goals that we might have. But in Enneagram terms, they're the deepest parts of us that are often unconscious, the parts that are driving us in ways that we're not entirely aware of. Until they've been presented to us in a way. So in these areas of core drives and core fears are really that which is answering the why. And so one example I use is, there's 9 types, and we can all behave identically. You can have all the types, individuals, 8, 9, all the way around, like all 9 individuals that are represented as personalities can all be ambitious and intelligent and analytical and exhibit certain sensitivities or whatever. They can be behaving the same, and even maybe in the exact same job, but they're doing it for different reasons. So each different personality type has a different reason why, and most of the time that's unconscious. And so the Enneagram kind of reveals that and brings it to our conscious of, oh, this is true. I didn't realize this, that underneath pretty much everything I do, I can find this essential thread.
Yeah, your point has been so resonant in my life. And I think the contextual aspect of it is really to what makes it so important, is to practice it within context versus, again, getting away from the one size fits all and kind of preaching across an entire audience. Instead, to be really humble and really honest and then really curious. Let's continue to explore more of the core, the why, instead of the what in our next episode. But for today, I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and we welcome your input. We would love for you to come on this journey with us. So if you have questions or you're curious about learning more or figuring out how does the Enneagram fit into your real world, please reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'd love to engage with you.